with that and with the housekeeping being done, let me go into sharing my screen and showing you the pain points that I imagine will be happening for you guys. Okay, so middle school. First and foremost, before I start on the pain points, I want to debunk two big things, okay? You don't have to survive anything about the teen years. I want you to take off the survival glasses and put on the opportunity glasses when you're thinking about your middle school children. They are starting the very long journey of launching into adulthood. That is why they are questioning your rules. That is why they are debating with you. That is why, they went from wearing only black to wearing all the colors in the rainbow. That's why they're trying on different personas. And I don't want you to see that as a problem, but I want you to see it as the beautiful opportunity that it is, which is your child figuring out, who am I and who do I wish to be in the world, and doing it in the safety of your home and in the safety of your guidance, not your control, your guidance, right? So if you don't remember anything else that I say today, for the teen years, and especially in the middle school years, you are guiding them, not controlling them. I'm going to let you all take that in for a minute. So let's go through the pain points, right? So a lot of you, everybody officially now has either been in person or still in virtual school. Things have come up as pain points around this, right? So those kids that have gone back to school, especially those of you that are in public school, the transition is very recent, and the transition is only approximately 2 weeks old. So expect them to make mistakes, expect them to have lack of good planning, and expect some of them to be complaining to you about this time. And the complaints and the lack of planning and the forgetting the water bottle and the hand sanitizer that you handed to them, it's about them getting back into a transition. Those middle schoolers that just got back to in-person school, you have to give them the time to get used to the new routine. If we think about it, the being home and waking up late and kind of moving a little bit slower, what was an 8-month type deal. And routine is incredibly important for all age groups, but it's really important as a way to communicate your expectations and the needs of for them to be able to feel some independence and autonomy in what happens to them in the day-to-day. So since the routine kind of drastically shifted, especially those of you that have finally gone back to in-person school, please be respectful of speaking to one another about the shifts, right? Couple of things that I imagine may have happened with your 12, definitely forgetting things is probably something that is happening for a lot of the middle schoolers, and going back to school, and definitely getting back into the routine of like waking up, eating breakfast, getting dressed. So it's been a couple of weeks now since public school went back. It's been a couple of months since a lot of the private schools opened up to in-person schooling. So this is a good time for both families to kind of make sense of your routine and what has worked and what hasn't worked. Teen years is a really great time to think about, okay, what works for you in the morning? This is what works for me in the morning. What works for you at night? This is what works for me at night, and to work together on that. Get ready fast, we're gonna be late, oh my god, what are you doing, without having a conversation, creates the chaos. So I think that that's the number, I would imagine that that's the number one pain point. And you know, be a lot of them, bless their hearts, they have been very, very good in kind of transitioning back. Now, those of you that have chosen to stay virtual, and every family is different, you may be getting the pain point of your middle schooler feeling either left out, or being annoyed that you made a decision that they didn't agree with you about. Now, this is true for choosing to do virtual, or choosing to go back to school. Maybe some of your kids didn't want to go back to school. In the adolescent years, it's important to explain how we got to the decision that we're making. And they're going, but why? But that doesn't make any sense. But why? It's important to say to them, this is the decisions that I've made. And I've made them because, one, it's easier for us as your caregivers, as the adults that are taking care for you. Two, because in our value system, this is how we imagine we are keeping you safe. And three, whatever other reason you have. And then letting your adolescent know, especially middle schoolers, and now that we've made the decision, we're only telling you how we've made it. We're not going to change our mind. And then that's when the clock starts for you and for them to tolerate the emotion that bubbles up, right? It's hashtag tolerate the emotional response, right? Because all of you guys are giving your kids, well, some of you are making the mistakes of just telling them what's going to happen rather than discussing with them how you got into, how you made that decision, especially something as big as like virtual school versus school, or seeing friends or not seeing friends. Or, you know, I really want, allow that to be an opportunity for you to sit with your child respectfully, not screaming, not telling them, you don't know any better, I'm the one in charge. Respectfully, this is a time when I want you to start practicing talking to your 12, 13, 14-year-old how you would speak to another adult. They're not adults. That is true. They can't make other choices. No, they cannot. But we can speak to them and communicate with them the way that we're asking them to communicate with us. Because they push back so much, because they wonder and want to debate with us the choices that we've made, we get frustrated and end up saying, it's because that's the way it is. And that never works with teens. What works is, look, you're really sad. You're really frustrated by my choice. I get it, but that's the choice I've made. And now you're done. A lot of you guys are telling them, some of you are doing the good task of telling them and how you got to the choice, but you want your child to be like, okay, fine. And very few, as okay, fine, you get more with high school kids, 15 and older, right? If you do 12 to 14 well. Most 12 to 14-year-olds are like, oh, or they don't talk to you, or they ignore you, or they're like, and then you feel that rejection and that disgruntledness and that angst, because they're really, really disappointed and they're holding it together. And I would say that is the hardest part of raising an adolescent. It's been the hardest part the whole time in parenting, but in adolescence is incredibly difficult, because there's an aspect of you that you understand that your child is asking for independence, but it is very important. So again, whether with the rule, and this encapsulates these two first points that I'm talking about, with school, whether you did virtual or in person, or with the rules and your restrictions, please always walk your child through how you made the decision. especially when the decision is not going to be changed, letting them know this is how we made the decision. I am respecting you enough to let you know why I made the decision, what value I am following, what safety guidelines I am following, and whatever third reason you have, and what our family needs as a unit together collectively, and that's why I'm making this decision. And then letting them have whatever emotional response that they have, right? And sometimes it's going to be really, really big and disrespectful. And in that moment, I want you to give them the permission to kind of lose it a little bit, especially if it's a big disappointment. But then if they get very, very rude, talking to them later, not in the moment, and saying, it is what it is. And then you working on yourself and what it feels like for you to be rejected in that moment, right? To your thinking to be rejected in the moment. But then that puts back the responsibility on you, the parent, of like, what value are you following when you're setting a rule with your 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old? What value, what safety standard are you following through with this rule and this restriction that you set for them? And how does it help the family to make this choice, right? So like, for example, your 13-year-old wants to play Among Us, which is the really popular video game that they're all playing right now with their friends. But it's 11 o'clock and it's Saturday, right? And you walk in and you're like, okay, we're done. We're done with I know it's Saturday, but we've set the standard for 11 o'clock. No, why? Now the no why is because they're disappointed that they're going to have to stop this social interaction that they're having with their peers. With you, the loving adult, you understand this, and it makes you question your resolution, right? But in that moment, you have to say, look, this is, we are practicing holding our integrity, right? We promise one another that at 11 o'clock on Saturdays, and this is a made up rule. This is not necessarily a rule that I want anybody to keep, but I'm making up this rule. You and I agreed, and we're holding integrity, and we're holding to our contract. 2, this is about the safety and how I'm keeping you healthy, is that I know that you need to sleep, because when you don't sleep and when you sleep late on the weekends, then you end up having a horrible Monday. So I really need you to go to bed between 11 and 12, even on Saturday and even on Friday and Saturday. And 3, as a family, knowing that you are no longer on your screen, I and the other adults in this house will feel safer that you are now done with the day, and we're all done with the day. So give me the laptop. Ugh, God, you're so annoying. But they hand you the laptop. Congratulations, you're done. And when you give them those 3 reasons, now you have walked them through how to make a decision, which they're going to have to do and get to do well, when they're 20, 30, 40. And this is the thing about helping your children develop in social, emotional type learning. You have to put the money in, and you don't necessarily see the reward in the moment. All of you have been parents long enough of 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds. I am sure that you've had more than one time when your child has kind of like sat next to you and said, okay, you're right, I'm sorry. Right? And know that initial disappointment, that initial response, they immaturely still respond to it like they did when they were 3, and they would throw themselves on the ground because the beans touched the rice, right? It's just that now there's words, right? Independence, responsibility. The only way to learn them is by letting them fail. So back to this example of like, maybe they're back in school, or maybe they're still doing virtual, but they're in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and they're having a really, really hard time planning, right? You get the message from the parent portal that they didn't do their assignment. Try not to go in there and say, why didn't you do that assignment? That's so irresponsible. I want you to say, you missed an assignment. What do you think went wrong? Right? Because sixth, seventh, well, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh grade is the time for your children to practice planning, to practice taking responsibility for the tasks that are asked of them, both at home and at school, and to learn how to plan to get around it. Kids, 18 and younger are notorious in imagining that they can get done more than they actually can in like a 3-hour span, right? Because kids, especially kids 12 to 18, they're always thinking about the positive of things. So sometimes when they mess up in planning, when they mess up in getting work done, it's because they think that they have a lot of time. Like they think of the positive things that they think that they can watch TV, play Roblox or Among Us with their friends, and then have enough time to do the project that their social studies teacher told them to do. Right? Because they're only thinking about, I could do it, and the positive. And they're not thinking that you're gonna walk in at 9:30 and be like, all right, buddy, lights out. And then they're gonna be like, but I didn't get my work done. If they didn't plan well and they say, I didn't get my project done, you guys are going to hate me. But the best thing to do with anybody from 3rd to 8th grade is to say, that's horrible. You're going to have to tell your teacher that you didn't plan well and you couldn't get that job done. And you're probably, they may, hopefully they'll give you more time, but you're probably going to have a grade drop. That is the best way, instead of, well, now because you only thought about your friends, you're going to stay up. And then, because now you're shooting yourself in the foot. I'd rather they have the consequence from the teacher than from you. From you, the parent, health, safety, values of the house, right? Teacher, hey, I totally messed up. I didn't plan well and I didn't get my work done. Well, sorry, because the teacher is going to be way better than you. And they're going to say, all right, you could turn it in late, but you're going to get a cut on your grade. Natural consequences are definitely the best consequences. But if you don't let your child fail, if you fix it for them, if you let them stay up, if you don't give them the opportunity at 12, 13, 14, when it's not so high stakes, right? When you're in college, it's higher stakes when you can't plan, right? But when you're in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, it's really not that high stakes to mess up like that. So please, as it pertains to independence and responsibility, expect them to fail just like when they were pulling up on all your furniture to walk. They are not going to do it perfectly. And when they plan, the Achilles heel of this age group is that they only see the positive of most of their decisions, which is incredibly interesting, but it's something that they do. Right. So it is definitely important. And social interaction. I've been talking about it. I think that it's currently a pain point, especially since schools have opened up. Now, when you think about social interaction in this age group, it's so interesting because the parents of the littles, the parents of like the under 5, this is their number one question to me, right? And then none of you guys are asking me this question. The ones that should be nervous about the lack of social interaction are parents of kids 10 and up. Social interaction is incredibly important and part of their social emotional development. The one thing that this age group has lost in this pandemic time and this quarantine time is the social interaction. So for those of you that are being careful, due to medical reasons or personal reasons on this quarantine time, social interaction needs to be something that you are protecting and thinking about for your middle schooler. And be mindful, right? Because for some middle schoolers, some of you may have that quiet, observant one that has that one friend that is really special to them, or some of them actually are kind of cool that they're on their own. Always in this age group, follow your child's lead, but those of you guys that have the more social or the most flexible ones, it is, and you have stayed kind of in the quarantine bubble, which I totally understand because every family has a different model. And especially now, again, that our numbers are starting to pick up again, I want you to be open and make your child aware that you understand how important their friends are, right? So when we think about screens, and we think about how much time, because before pandemic times, we kept talking about 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, and that was healthy and that was right. You know, a lot of you guys as parents are getting confused that it's like the physicality of being on the screen and that's what's, you know, making them zombies. No, it's how is the screen being used, and is there diversity in use in the screen, right? We don't want the child to only be playing a video game for 9 hours. That's not diverse, right? That's like only eating, you know, Cuban bread for 9 hours. That's not nutritious. Same with the screen, right? So the something that is the vegetables of the screen right now is when they, for 12 and up, is when they use it socially, right? And for a lot of your kids, they're mixing the video game with their social experience. And if they're going to spend 2 hours, that's really the best way to spend it, even if they were on their screen at school, right? The school time we don't count. But everybody, please think about whether you're going to do it by finding another family that you're going to have your own little kind of, a lot of people are doing like these pods of safety, or whether you're going to tell your child, hey, tell me which friend you want to play this video game with, and I'm going to reach out to their parent and I'm going to agree with them of when I am telling you, hey, it's cool, you can, you know, you could play between, you know, 4 and dinner, right? I would highly recommend that, because in this age group, and for those of you guys that are getting that pushback, the social interaction is incredibly important. And again, with the screens, something that I want to, digital citizens curriculum. Digital citizens curriculum. Common Sense Media has put out a wonderful resource. It's primarily for teachers, but I have been telling a lot of parents about it because it gives you ideas. It has great videos that you could play with your adolescent, to talk about what it means to use the screen. When you make the screen the enemy, when you say it's because he was on his screen and then he was having a hard time talking to their friend, we don't deal with the human and social emotional aspects of what it takes to do this machine in a safe way, right? So I'm completely off the train that somehow the screen is the catalyst. The screen is not the catalyst of anything. It's the opportunity to play out whatever the child is managing and resourcing for themselves. If your child is feeling sad and depressed, they will find sad and depressing things on their screens. So it is important to be dealing with their sadness and their frustration and their disappointment, and then the screen is not going to be an issue, right? If allow the screen also to be used together, whenever, and again, we're in the middle school year, so they don't necessarily 100% open up to us, because they shouldn't. They should be turning away from us and towards other adults, adult mentors in their life. Hopefully your school has an advisory program or some sort of program where there are adults that they can reach out to. And if you don't know about it, please call your school and find out. I know that Miami Country Day, which is a private school, and Gulliver has advisory programs. So reach out to your schools and find out where in their school do they have adult mentors for your children. And if your child is into sport, know that that coach is an adult mentor. So sometimes if you're worrying about something with your child, be open. Speak to their school counselor. Speak to their coach and say, hey, could you pull them aside? Could you have a heart to heart with them? Because I've noticed that they've been sad. I've noticed that, and allow adult mentors, which is the natural thing that your child is doing to guide and help your children. Or maybe there's an older cousin or an aunt or an uncle or an adult in their life that you can talk to and be like, hey, do you mind checking in with Susana? Because I've noticed that. Because naturally their brain is telling them, do not listen to the authority figures, begin to question what it means to be an adult. And that's the other pain of being a parent of an adolescent. And screens, if you blame that for everything that's wrong in your house, you miss the opportunity of the lessons that the screen gives us. The screen gives us a lesson of delaying gratification, how to put something away that we absolutely love, right? Screens teach us to find, not to be able to find things that we love, that we're good at. How many of you have looked up a recipe and figured out how to do things just by looking it up on the Google, right? So that's something that, problem solving is something that people are doing in screens. And then currently the screen has become a social gathering place, especially for the middle schoolers, right? I'm 48 years old, and back in the day, I had to meet everybody at the bakery center. That's what the Sunset Place used to be called. So we don't do that anymore. Now they meet online, right? So please allow the screen to be another tool that you use to teach your children how to be citizens of the world. Okay, so now we have entered the part where I can take your questions, and you can type them into the chat, or you can raise your hand and ask me any question that you have. If you don't have a question, that's fine. Sometimes that happens because talking about the pain points has given you the information. But if you have a question, go right ahead and type it in. I'll wait a little moment. And then I've allowed everybody to unmute themselves, so you can unmute yourself. Oh, there's one question. Okay. We review our 14-year-old's phone nightly while he sleeps. He logs out of Snapchat so we can't see his history. He has told us in the past not to look at his phone, and we should trust him. We have told him in the past, if he has a phone, we will have access and reviewed randomly. How do you recommend we approach him regarding access to Snapchat? First of all, I want to congratulate you on being open and aware, being open and honest with your child that you are reviewing his phone. However, he's telling you to trust him, right? And I want you and the adults that are managing him to figure out what needs to happen for you to feel trust in him. And when you make that requirement, you can add that the fact that he's hiding his Snapchat account is making it so it's going to take longer for you to trust him enough to no longer check his phone, right? I think middle school is a good time to verify and check the phone, especially if they have just gotten it, because it is kind of like teaching them how to cross the street, right? First we hold their hand, then we stand next to them, and then we let them cross it alone. And that's the same with the phone, right? So in high school, I always recommend, in high school, it's case by case. Hopefully you have done the work and you have agreed upon together what it means to trust him. The fact that he's not letting you show Snapchat is a reason for you to not trust his use of the phone. What is he hiding, right? So, but you can't say that without giving him a goal line. So you and whomever you caregive with, sit down and think about, when will we feel okay that we no longer have to look at our child's phone? And if they have shown you that they have been responsible and they have responded well to their peers through their middle school years, 15, 16 is a good enough time to stop looking at their phone, and you only look at the phone in high school when they're older, after they've proven to you that they're respectful, case by case when something happens, because high school is a very important time to let them go. Okay, so that's my answer for that one. Okay, the next question is, why do they lie so much for everything? Okay, so lies are a way to control getting something that I want, or preventing from losing something that I need. So when adolescents lie a lot, there could be three different reasons. One, because they're afraid to make mistakes, because if they make mistakes, they then see themselves as bad or imperfect. And sometimes a child sees themselves as bad or imperfect when we, the adults around them, overreact to the mistakes that they're made. And inevitably, by having a 12, 13, or 14-year-old, all of us, like, hi, I have a 12 and a 15-year-old, we get a little more scared because we understand that they have a little more freedoms. But we can get very catastrophic, making up these big, ay, no, porque si sales, entonces te vas a barrar y entonces vas a estar loco y alguien te va a robar y te va a ver vender sexualmente. And your child experiences that as like that you're crazy, right? So they lie to you to get what they need. So some lie because they don't want to lose something that they have, or they are afraid of not getting something of what they need. And some lie because they can't tolerate making mistakes. But others lie because they don't want to lose you and your connection and your love. So if you're finding that your child is lying a lot, I want you to wonder about your rules and your restrictions. Are they too strict? Are you still treating them like they're 8, 9, or 10? If they're lying to you about a freedom, right? Like, then maybe you have to think about, but if they're lying to you about mistakes, um, begin to talk about that it's okay that you don't expect them to be perfect. And if they're lying about bad planning, like, oh, I didn't turn in my homework, or I didn't do that, please tell them, look, you're going to make mistakes with school, and I get it, and it's okay. So give them the permission, like I said before, of the planning. So what are they lying about? And is it about losing something that they have, not getting something that they need, or fear of making mistakes and not being perfect, and or fighting with you? So look at your rules. If it's not your rules, then wonder, do they hate making mistakes? Do they hate not being perfect? So then that means that we gotta teach them that it's okay to make mistakes, that it's okay to fail, that it's expected. And lastly, Are they looking for independence that you haven't given them yet? And if they're looking in this age group, just like with the phone, it's important to tell our kids, this is how I will know that you could be more independent. And this is how I will know that you are ready to take on this independent things that you say that you need. And guys, there is no age. You know, there are 13-year-olds that are so responsible and so independent that you can leave them in Manhattan and they'll be fine. I know some of you are rolling your eyes about that, but I know some 13-year-olds that you can drop off in Manhattan and they'll figure it out. And then there's 16-year-olds that, you know, you leave them alone at Dayland and they get lost and they can't do anything, right? So it's not about age. It's about what are the skills that they have to be disciplined, to be responsible, to be able to problem solve in the adult world. Because just like they were pulling up on the furniture, that is what all of them are practicing today. They don't know, they're not immature. They don't know how to do it. They're building the muscle. And the thing about social emotional development is that you build the muscle practicing the skill, right? Like if we want to have a nice behind, we have to do squats. Right? So it is important that, are you allowing your child and are you giving them opportunity to be disciplined? Are you giving them opportunity to be independent? Are you giving them opportunity to be responsible? And are you giving them the space and the leeway to fall and make mistakes and do it wrong because they're supposed to? Just like when they started walking and they would fall down. You would never say to that baby, pero ¿por qué te caíste? Pero ¿por qué no pensaste cómo se ibas a poner el pie? When I'm talking in Spanish, and for those of you that speak English, it's like, why did you fall? Why didn't you notice where you took your step? We never say that to a child that's learning to walk. We should not say that to a child, a teenager that's learning, planning, responsibility, and delaying their pleasure. So, any other questions? I think today I've been very thorough, so I see why there aren't a lot of questions. Anybody else? You can raise your hand and I will unmute you. Okay, so Magdalena, tell me, what's your question?
Hi, Lina. How are you?
Hello, hello.
You've been very thorough, but in terms of planning, I have a 12-and-a-half-year-old. She's in 7th grade. She just started school two weeks ago, but in remote, she didn't hand in any assignment, not even one. Not even one.
Okay.
So talking, I've been from the crazy mom to the table mom. We had this conversation, but I don't see any reaction in her. She doesn't take responsibility. She always blames it on someone else, or the teacher, or the connectivity, or the coach. She plays field hockey, the coach. I mean, she's always in a bad mood, and that was not that bad. It's not true. And I mean, and I don't see a reaction, or I mean, and I tell her that these will have consequences, and not going seeing her friends or anything, and she doesn't react.
Okay.
At all.
Okay. Don't get stuck on reaction.
Okay.
Okay. So because that's a defense. If I feel guilty, I may just be like, trust that your child is listening. So a lot of the times they go flat. One, because they're embarrassed. Two, because they're guilty. And three, because they're mad with you in that moment.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the reaction at the moment, because she cries and she says sorry. Yes, you are right. Taking action of doing the assignment. I mean, talking to the teacher, studying for the test, taking action. I mean, not reaction at the moment, because she reacts and cries and but action.
She's not changing the okay. So it sounds like we have to problem solve, because it sounds like she's showing you that if she's not doing the work that is not guided, right? because that's what you're telling me, right? They have assignments that they have to do, and she's doing the work in the classroom, right? So I'm assuming that the teacher isn't telling you, hey, she's not paying attention and she's not participating. She's just not doing the work that is expected outside of class, right?
Not in class either.
Not in class either. Okay. Has she ever been evaluated for a learning difference?
No, I mean, she's been a straight A student her whole life. I mean,
Okay.
element and
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So we have to do a plan, right? Of the biggest result is the grades. So don't fix the grades and don't give her second chances. Okay. That's one. So tell the teacher, hey, no more fixing the grades and no more second chances. Thank you for helping us. 2, do a plan of like, okay, you're showing us that you're not doing this work. So we're going to set times when you're going to sit here and do the work of school. Right. So if she's alone in the bedroom, then that's a thing, and, pull her out. And 3, wonder with her is she like that big of a shift in schooling means that something is going on internally for her around school. And the pandemic has been a big deal. So I want you to ask her, okay, we took care of the virtual because you're now at school. We took care of this, we took care of this, but it sounds like what is going on for you? I'm really curious about how has she been feeling about this big transition?
Okay.
That big of a shift in grades and an attitude towards school is emotional. So what happened? Right.
Okay.
And to me, the big, the elephant in the room right now is the pandemic.
Okay.
Okay. So wonder with her, like have a heart to heart, but definitely have her teacher give her the F.
No, yes, she has them all.
Okay.
All the alphabet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, but scaffolding, right? So for the next 2 weeks, you're gonna do your work here at the table.
Okay.
The week once you've shown me that you've done this every week, because we gotta. It sounds like she has to get back into the groove, but there's something emotionally happening. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye. Okay. Tell me.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. What's your question?
So I have twin girls. And I have an older son as well. They're 14 months apart. So my son, when he was in 7th grade, he had a phone and he got Snapchat. My daughters are now in 7th grade and they want Snapchat. Now, I had a terrible experience with my son on Snapchat. And so I'm more hesitant with my twin girls who are 14 months difference to give them Snapchat. And it's been a constant battle. They're great students, very responsible, both of them, probably more than the brother. But I'm very hesitant with that application. What do you, they have an Instagram account because they started up a little like side business during the pandemic with their cricket. And so I said, we're going to open up an Instagram account for your cricket work.
Beautiful.
And based on that, you're going to show me how responsible you're going to be.
Beautiful.
But I think that those two applications are so different too, because I can monitor the Instagram account. I like transfer from one to the other and back and forth to see what's going on.
Yep.
But Snapchat is a different world. So any suggestions?
Okay.
Help.
So if I had to put an age on Snapchat, I would put 16 as an age on Snapchat.
Okay.
Snapchat, like Fortnite, unfortunately, the programmers of the software, so what you're feeling intuitively and organically has been proven scientifically. They actually have neurologists on staff that have created the software to be to light up the pleasure areas of the brain. And so in a way, when we give a 12, 13, 14-year-old Snapchat, we're asking them to fight their brain. And if any of you have promised yourself that you're not going to have cake at 10 o'clock at night on a stressful day, but you eat the cake anyway,
Right.
that's you fighting your brain. Most of the time we can't. So so I want to co-sign you that you haven't opened that door yet. Those of you that have already opened the door, I know that now your brain is exploding. It's okay, just calm, but know that it's a very, very, it's kind of like putting a person that just learned to walk on the side of a hill. It's a difficult app to maintain. Now, a lot of kids are on it, so there's like a sense of like social pariah type deal. And and again, you know, this is something that they're managing. So expect them not to like your choice. Let them know that as a parent, unfortunately, you learned with their sibling the mistake that you made. And then remember to talk about the value that you're protecting them from, which is, you know, what are the values that Snapchat doesn't have? The health and safety. Now you could say, hey, I learned from this child development expert and neuropsychologist that Snapchat has been programmed to make you want to do the streaks. The streaks is the worst thing of Snapchat. And three, it's just not something that I am willing to do as a family at this point. And I know how unfortunately, you know, disappointed you are. And then, Mom, you have to tolerate their hatred of your decision.
Yes. Well, we do that already.
That's it. But I want to kind of like applaud you for understanding, you know, Snapchat is hard. Snapchat is very, very hard to not look at. It's programmed.
And I think the hardest part of that program is that, and I monitor a lot, but the hardest I mean, I feel like my husband's like, what are you doing at night? I'm looking at TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever I can catch, you know, like, especially my son, whatever I can see in his Snapchat. But since it goes away and he's aware that I'm on it, then it's hard. It's just a hard app because, you know.
It is. And, you know, listen, my husband is the dean of students at a private school here in the city. And most of the kids that are in his office are in trouble with Snapchat.
Yeah.
Because they're, you know.
My son probably goes to that private school.
Because you can.
So I'm not going to mention names. But
I'm not mentioning names either. So you can screen grab, and a lot of them don't know that. And they're, you know, and it's back to this digital citizenship, right? And again, a lot of the kids feel the safety that it disappears in quotation marks. It doesn't. So keep it up. My recommendation for Snapchat is 16. And you know, it's a very hard app to give. So, you know, just withstand the disappointment and don't judge yourself. You're doing a good job, but remember, everybody, we want them to be able to do the social media platforms in a safe way by the time they're in high school. Right? Like, and right now you're teaching them how. Right now you're holding their hand to cross the social media street. We need to let them cross the street by themselves somewhere in high school, because developmentally, brain-wise, they are able to handle a lot of the pressures of social media if they have been practicing in middle school. Okay? Don't, of course, like I'll say it in Spanish, van a meter la pata, like that's totally normal. You know, they're going to put their foot in their mouths because they're adolescents. And most of the time, the mistakes that they're made are based on their brain only looking at the positive of things. Okay, so yes, I have a question. So thank you for the question, Jessica. That's a good
Thank
one. So it's
you.
more about tolerating their disappointment.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So okay, so that I have two questions, of course, because I said Snapchat is hard, but from those of you that have allowed them to use the Snapchat earlier, and again, I want you to know that it's that you haven't made a huge mistake. You don't have to pull it away tonight. You just have to say to them what I told you, right? um One thing that you could do right now, you don't have to take it away, go into your iPhone, and give them only an hour of Snapchat permission. You could do that on the Apple phone. You could do restrictions on the Apple phone. You do screen time. You could choose a particular app, and my recommendation to you is to turn off the Snapchat after an hour for the day, right? Or you want to go nuts, give them 30 minutes for the day, right? If you've already given them permission. So because that's a way of holding their hand to cross the social media street, right? So, and then start building 5 minutes at a time. um be Talk to them about Snapchat, and talk to them about the issues with it. Everybody watch the new documentary on Netflix, Social Dilemma. um Watch it for yourself first and see if your child in particular can sit through it. Because a lot of the adolescents don't want to get bamboozled by the sites, so you don't have to take it away from them, but you do have to give them the information, right? And I do recommend having restrictions. Use So in the settings area of your if you have an Apple phone, you can do the minimizing of that one app, right? So the apps that I recommend that you do restrictions on are Snapchat, and probably WhatsApp, because a lot of them are scrolling a lot, but not right now in pandemic times because of the social things, right? So just restrict their time with it and shorten it, make it less than the screen time that you do in general. And that should help you. But definitely let them know that the programmers of Snapchat, the programmers of Fortnite, took neurological information to make their application more appealing to the pleasure areas of the brain, which is, hopefully eventually we will have better laws, and ethically we'll get rid of that. But currently, social media and the software world is kind of like the Wild West. We still haven't caught up to what they're doing. All right, everybody. Wonderful to be here today. Remember that I record all of these, so if you have missed previous free Zooms for this age group, you can go to the website, and you can to stopparentingalone.com, and you can look up the other calls that I have done in this age group, and you can hear me talk in other times about other pain points and questions from other parents, and that's all saved under blog recorded talks, and you can look up your age group. If you want to do this with me for an hour and a half, only talking about you, your family, your child, you can do a parenting consultation with me. It's $300. You walk away with why of the behavior, the solution of the behavior, and a plan for the behavior. That's what you walk away from when you do a parenting consultation with me. But it feels a lot like this because we do it in telehealth, we do it through the computer. And you get to talk to me about you and your family and your child for an hour and a half. And the other great program that I have is online parenting support. It's a monthly subscription where I do this every Tuesday at 1 o'clock with everybody that's part of a member. There's a private Facebook group where you can ask questions, and I go in every day except for Saturday and Sunday, and I answer the questions of the parents in that site. That's $49 a month, which is like a bad meal somewhere. And or you can get all my tips that I'm always giving away, that I'm thinking some of you found me that way through social media. Yes, us adults do social media too. I'm parenting expert on Instagram and Stop Parenting Alone and everything else. And always I recommend that you go to the blog and you could read information that I have given out. I recommend that you go to the blog area of the website, stopparentingalone.com, and listen to the other recorded talks that I've done throughout this time, because when the pandemic started, I started doing these. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next month.